Jeremy Richter asked the question, what are your memories from when Eddie Gilbert came to book Continental? Uh, you know, I'll have to say this about Eddie. I was actually in USA Championship Wrestling. I was finishing up some stuff there for about 6 weeks. I came and visited during the I think it was sometime during the beach brawl thing, and I liked the way that he was getting certain wrestlers over, but he slowly started doing a lot of Memphis style booking that just did not work there because see they could get away with slapping your mama and beating your brother up and beating your dad up. That stuff could get over in Memphis for some reason, but didn't get so well over in Conroe. And the problem was you couldn't sit down with Eddie and Rodney. We know this. You couldn't sit down with Eddie and go, okay, Eddie, this is the budget we have. This is how we're going to have to do it because we don't have no more money. This is it. You have to work within these budgets. So there cannot be no more Austin Idols for however much he was being paid. There can't be no more Jerry Lawlers and flying them in. Can't do any of that stuff anymore. Can't afford to do that. This is the losses. Instead of working with you, he would cry and bellyache, and you would have thought that you would have whipped him with a belt. And Bill Watts said the same thing. You couldn't speak to him and try to make him understand there's a business side and there's a booking side of it. And as a booker, you have to be able to listen to the owner or the person who's over the money say, this is the only way we can do it. We can't make it work any other way. Rodney, your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. As far as the talent goes, he had good talent. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
DI, Detroit Demolition. But you cannot go into and as were talking about, and I'll add to it, you can't go in and destroy property. You cannot destroy tables, chairs. You can't have your wife throwing popcorn in a concession stand. You just can't do it. I mean that you can't go out and have your wife telling the general manager that she's going to have you knocked off and thrown in a river somewhere. You can't do that. It's just not businesslike. Okay. And I agree, but it's you can't say I'm booking here and say I'm hurt, I can't work, and then the next thing you know, you're working in Kansas City, bumping all over the place. It's just not possible. So there was a lot of issues there. Part of which, and I get it, when you go there and you have the constraints of a budget that you have to stick with, and before Dad gets back there, uh, there was no constraints. They were spending like drunken sailors. They were just, and it wasn't paying off. You do a $11,000 house or in Dothan, Alabama, and lose $1,100. That's not right. It just can't be. It can't be sustained. It's not sustained at all. But as far as a mind and for a love of business, Eddie, there was no doubt of where his mind was. There was no doubt that he loved wrestling. He loved the business. He loved the creative end, and you have to give him that for sure. But when it
I,
comes down to the business, no, you can't. He couldn't put them together. It was either or. Go ahead.
I think WCW or WWF would have he would have been a tremendous asset for them because they had big purse strings and they had the money to do the things that he had in mind. Eddie was a good idea guy. I mean, he fired me his first day in, but we'll let that go by the wayside because he fired all of us at that time. But uh, he did. He had big money ideas. Unfortunately, the thing was is that you had to spend a tremendous amount of money to get his ideas to work, and Continental didn't have that kind of money. Memphis didn't have that kind of money. Anybody did.
No, I'll never forget David Woods calls our dad and says, "Hey, you're gonna have to come back here. I'm gonna close this place down." So, what's going on? Well, he goes and tells them, I'm losing money, that the deals are doing. And really, during Eddie Gilbert's reign, $11,000 gate was the biggest gate he ever did. That was it. So during the whole reign, he was there. And he said, I'm losing money every week. I'm pulling $3,000 or $4,000 out to keep this coming, and I'm not going to do that no more. I said, I'm going to just close it down. And he said, well, no, I'll come back and I'll do. And Dad came in and became, and for those people that don't know, it's Ronnie West. He came in and instantly got heat with the boys. Because he said, well, you're trying to stick your nose into Eddie's book. And he said, I'm not trying to stick my nose in it, but there is a way to do this that has to be done, and it has to be followed. Is it fair to you, Daddy Davis, that you got $100 and Austin Idol got $750? Is it fair to you, you got $100 and Jerry Lawler got $1,500 of it? That's not fair. And it's not fair to David Woods that at the end of each week since Jack Curtis took it over and Eddie Gilbert's been here, he's lost $3,000 or $4,000 every week. He can't do that. No business can do that. And they understood that. Do you think when he ran like Danny Davis ran Ohio Valley Wrestling, if he lost $3,000 or $4,000, he wouldn't change something? If he had somebody booking it, it's about whether or not you make a profit or not. Not how many people are in the building, not how many. It's what you make at the end of the week, profit-wise. And Dad got in there and cut that stuff.
And one thing that I absolutely agree with Eddie on is the fact that there was too many belts. Yeah. And the first thing he did is come in and took all of them up and created a new champion. And I was building the road to Birmingham, and it was successful, by the way.
He was a great booker.
He knew his stuff, from no doubt. Yeah.
He was a great booker, but he couldn't talk to him about business. He'd get mad at you and wouldn't talk to you for 3 or 4 days. So, I mean, how can you do business with somebody like that? And they said, Bill Watts said the same thing. He says, listen, I would try to explain we can't do that. We just can't afford to do that. It's just, to be a booker, you have to listen to your owners and the people that run it, and you have to follow their guidelines, and he just wouldn't do it. Guys, why did GCW go to Ohio, West Virginia, and Michigan?
A very good question you have there, Richard. Honestly, it was twofold. The Sheik was not doing good business. I'm talking about good business practices, okay? Yeah. And so the National Wrestling Alliance, and at that time, Jim Barnett was the secretary, the treasurer of the NWA. So he was given the task of going to the Sheik and tell him, okay, we're taking the NWA membership away from you, and we're going to come in, NWA, and my company, Georgia Championship Wrestling, we're coming in here, and we're going to run place. We're going to run this, Ohio, West Virginia. You're going to get a percentage of it, but as far you are out. And it was because of bad business practices. That's why that was. I think, and plus I do believe Barnett at one time ran that anyway at one point. So that's how that all started. And then, of course, Barnett was able to get the TVs and everything up there, and they started going up, of course, with TBS, and they did unbelievable business. And we're talking about Ohio Center was sold out before they got there in Columbus, Ohio. The bell rings. It's Dennis Condrey against Terry Taylor. And the bell rings, and the crowd explodes as if it's the main event. They are standing. It takes them 10 minutes to get to the ring. Terry Taylor takes him forever to get to the ring. The bell rings. They lock up, and the place explodes again. It was, Dad said it was like nothing he had ever seen before. And it was just a combination of what they had seen before. And then the fact that, Georgia Championship Wrestling, World Championship Wrestling was seen on TBS for years, and it was majorly over in that markets. And they did huge business. And we're talking about Columbus, Dayton, Charleston, West Virginia, Huntington, Lansing, Michigan. They did huge business. So much so that basically was no need to even run Georgia anymore. They were done with it pretty much. Ran the Omni, and that's about it.
Is Ted DiBiase's legal trouble? And Jack, is he still have legal trouble?
Still, yeah. They haven't gone to court yet, or trial, whatever.
Man, James Brown, did Tom Schaff legit win a lot of tough man contests? I don't know. I don't know much about Tom Schaff. I know he came into Atlanta for a while, but I don't know. But Rodney is turning into the Matrix or something down there. Have you? Is he that way to anybody?
What happened to me earlier is my internet was disconnected. Yeah, it was gone. So there's
Dennis Mitchell, I have a question for Brent and Rodney. Did your dad have any cross about Robert Fuller booking in Southeastern and Continental Wrestling?
No, not. We knew the situation. It was family. You're not going to argue with family. We had a little issue with the fact that he came back from Memphis to Continental for David Woods. That was a deal that was just right out of the blue. I'm not going to speculate what we thought there, but because it's not, it's no need at this point. But that time Robert came back and it was a totally different Robert Fuller. It's not one that you could work with. And it looked like a person that was bent on revenge and vendetta, and not quite sure what the whole
Robert
situation was.
He certainly was not the same person during that time period.
And
certainly not the person he is now. Which is
and certainly the before that there was no need to even argue about what he did. It was just you could go to Ron all you want to, or you could say whatever you want to, but Ron would say, "But Robert's the booker," and that was it. There was no need to argue with them about it. That's the way they wanted to do it, and I think that was Ron's whole point. Anyway, truth be known,
he would leave a lot. Dad would leave. That's the reason he would leave and go there. He'd be there for 6 weeks, and then he would leave and go to Mid-South Wrestling, stay for a year, and then go back for a while. I think, but he would get there, and 6 weeks later, he'd watch the booking, he'd watch the way it was, and he'd leave again. The only time he stayed for a long period of time was over a year, and then when he came back in 1987, he stayed. But it was just to really help Ron Fuller find somebody to buy the company. I mean, especially what happened during that point in time. But he because they did some things that he would look at and say, that's bad for me. Like having a 5-minute cage match when it took 30 minutes to put the cage up. Stuff like that would just tear him up. And I don't know that Dad found any of his footing for any other wrestling when he left Georgia. Because he had some say-so in Georgia, the way it was run and the way it was done. And anywhere else he really didn't. Bill Watts listened to him. In 84, 85 time period. He didn't in 86, but he did in 88, when they were really making money during those 2 years that Bill Dundee was booking it. No, I don't know that he ever had a problem with Robert as booking. I just think that it was business. If business was doing really good, and Bob Armstrong was booking it, and then Robert Fuller took it over, and business started going downward, and he would say, "Listen, business is not doing too good here. We need to do something different." And you would talk to him about it, and it was just, that was all you got from it. And at least Bill Watts, you could say, okay, this is what Baton Rouge, Louisiana did for the last 3 months, but now look at how we're steadily going down in our gates. Something's got to be done. Because if we keep on going, this transition keeps on going back any further, we're going to really be drawing nothing. And at least Bill Watts would listen and say, okay, we need to do something. Let's do something in towns. And I can remember them really stepping up the booking in Baton Rouge and really making sure they did something in that town to make people buy a ticket to come back and see it again. That was not always the case in Continental. Rodney, I think Rodney is like Thunderbolt. He is full.
Sure was. I am. Oh, that Freebird DiBiase, that runs all over me. There's so much potential there. Ted was a good guy. He is a good guy, and so
Lance
just
Peterson,
don't let him handle your money.
Listening in Dallas, great talk. Yeah, we love Ted DiBiase. Always loved Ted DiBiase. I know he's in some problems now, but he was always good to us. Always good to us. And and was tremendous talent. No matter where he wrestled, no matter what he did, he was good at. There's no, I don't know any personal issues he had, but as far as a wrestler, he was great. So, yeah, the pile driver segment was a thing of beauty indeed. Keep in mind, I wasn't so keen as a 10-year-old watching, but still, it was tremendous. It was a tremendous thing.